Hello, my friends in film fandom, and we have finally done it. We've gotten to episode 9 of what we assume will be the first of at least 2 seasons of She-Hulk. I imagine we go multiple seasons. It makes sense that it goes multiple seasons. I don't know exactly if I wanted to based on how this season played out. But here to talk about all that with me is my good friend, Conor from the Horny Goat, fellow Marvel enthusiast, fellow fan, somebody who has been with me through this journey of all things She-Hulk for the last several weeks.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, is plenty to talk about. It was an interesting ending. A very interesting ending indeed to what has been a bit of a roller coaster season for She-Hulk. What are some of your base thoughts on the ride here, how we've gotten here?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. It took me almost the whole day to process the episode. I watched it at the beginning, and I had time in the morning, and so I was able to watch it in the morning. And I literally tweeted out. I said, I need time to process it because it's not just. As we'll talk about, there's so much to unpack with this. Obviously, we've been very critical of the series leading up to this, the ups, downs, more so of our concerns and frustrations. We said last week's was a pretty solid episode and our favorite so far. This one, I mean, it's great. It's confusing. It's frustrating. It's like all the emotions we wanted throughout the show in one episode. It was a lot, but I'm still kind of processing it. But at the same time, I kind of really dug it.
Yeah, there was good things in this episode. There was some not so good things. Like you said, the last episode, me and you really loved. We thought it was the best episode of this series so far. I think the first episode was good. It was a good start.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last episode, episode 8, the one that came out last week that we talked about, was probably the best so far of the series for me.
Yep.
But there was a lot riding on this last episode. Still a lot that needed to be summed up. Curious as to the way this was going to end. Was it going to be something that could be continued off of? How is it going to affect the larger MCU? A lot of the questions that tend to revolve around every MCU project. We were asking about this as well. But boy, I mean, where do you even start? So let's start with a basic rundown of what this episode was. The name of the episode was "Whose Show Is This?" A fourth wall break in the title, which I actually think is kind of cool.
No kidding.
As Jen Walters is released from DODC custody, she is forced to wear an inhibitor to prevent her from transforming and loses her job at GLKNH. Nikki and Pug infiltrate an intelligentsia event where they learn that Phelps is actually Hulk King, and Blonsky, as the Abomination, is serving as a motivational speaker. That was a great big heel turn for Blonsky, and we had always kind of suspected that Phelps was kind of something to the bigger picture, but we didn't know quite what. We got that answer. Let's see. Walters arrives at the event looking for Blonsky, thinking that she was showing up there to get some more of his wisdom to help her through her problems. And she ends up confronting Phelps, who injects himself with her blood that was stolen by the dickhead Josh a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he transforms into a Hulk. When Tatiana and Banner unexpectedly appear in the ensuing fight, a confused Walter breaks the fourth wall to confront the show's writers at Walt Disney Studios, where she meets with Kevin, Kevin, an artificial intelligence that claims to be in charge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's storyline decisions, and persuades it to rewrite the finale, to which it reluctantly agrees. Returning to her show, she arrests Phelps and Blonsky while celebrating with her family and Matt Murdock, who popped back in towards the end of the series for just one more look before we see him later on.
Why not?
And we also get a little bit of a surprise as Banner returns from Sakaar with his son, Scar, which was probably the most significant thing that happened over the course of this entire series.
No kidding.
After regaining her job and being cleared of all charges, Walters vows to continue her work as a lawyer and a superhero. And in a mid-credit scene, Juan breaks Blonsky out of prison again and takes him to Carmartage. So, yeah, a whole lot, some good, some bad. Definitely a lot of stuff that's going to affect the MCU moving forward. A couple of big things for sure.
Yeah.
Let's concentrate on this episode. What are some of your thoughts on the events of this episode? Did it kind of turn out the way you wanted it to?
Absolutely not. This went completely in the left direction as far as what I was expecting it to, and it's kind of one of the reasons I like it. Is not just because of how different it was, but it was meta on itself, on top of itself, on top of itself, on top of itself. I mean, the whole thing with Kevin is basically one big like jab at like Marvel's production in its own how people sometimes view Marvel shows and the Marvel movies. So I thought that was genius. But yeah, I mean, Kevin is come on. It's so great just to have her go into Walt Disney. I mean, when they went fourth wall breaking, they went full blown fourth wall breaking as much as humanly possible. I'd say this is probably the most fourth wall breaking we've gotten any Marvel property, even Deadpool, so far.
Yeah, to me, there was some things here with a whole lot of potential. There also was a couple of callbacks in this that I thought were really interesting. One of them was, I mean, the whole her not liking the way that the ending of the episode was playing out, and then like going through the Disney Plus menu to go find the writing staff. That's actually a throwback to something in the comic books that she does, where she actually does something similar between the panels of the comic book.
Yes.
So I like how they worked that in and modernized it for what was happening on Disney Plus. Actually, I think that was really, really cool.
Clever, yeah.
What she does with it, though, didn't really hit with me. Because at first I'm like, okay, so she walks in, she catches the crew of people. She catches Blonsky, who is becoming Abomination again. She finds out all this stuff, and I thought this is where the climax happens. And we seem to put all that on hold because she wanted something, quite frankly, more boring to happen. It's like,
no, you're not wrong, and that's kind of where I'm like polarized about this, but
because I was really with it up until the point where she gets to Kevin. And she says, I want Blonsky to take responsibility. I'm like, what? I want this guy to just be arrested for being a douchebag. I'm like, why are you not having a more actiony Marvel kind of closing here?
Yep.
I don't really understand why you would want the more boring thing, because we get right up to the precipice. Because to me, when Titania comes in, I'm like, what the hell is this chick even doing?
It was the same way. I'm like,
because she was billed as being a much bigger, or at least more important villain than what she actually was throughout the course of the series.
Right.
But I was like, her being there, I was kind of like, maybe now we're finally going to, because we only really get to see her and Jen throw hands really twice. There's that court scene in the very first episode.
Right.
Then they go fisticuffs at the wedding, and then that's it. That's the only time we ever really see them fight at all. And I'm like, finally, I want it. Because one of the things that I had thought, because when you watch the promo for this last episode, when it came out over the course of the last several days, you see Hulk and Blonsky kind of getting ready to throw hands at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, and as I was seeing this stuff unfold, I saw a lot of people were on there like, how did Blonsky get so much bigger than Hulk? Did Hulk shrink in the dryer? Was one of the things that I saw a lot on Twitter and stuff, which I thought was kind of funny. But I was thinking to myself as I was seeing this play out, I'm like, maybe Blonsky is still the good guy, and he's fighting, douchebag, what's his name, who injected her blood into himself and became a little mini version of Hulk. It's like, oh, maybe that explains why we would get that visual. But we never really got there. And then Bruce comes crashing back in, and I'm like, okay, this is a good time for Bruce to come showing back up, because there's about to be some shit getting thrown around. And then, so it's like they built this anticipation for something. And I thought Bruce would get involved in whatever he's getting involved in. The little mini Hulk guy and Blonsky would get into it, and Titania and Jen Walters would get into it, and we'd have like a little bit of a three-way battle going on all at the same time. Like, this is what I want from Marvel. I want shit like this to happen. And then she's like, wait a minute, I'm going to break the fourth wall. I'm going to break every wall. I'm going to try to break the wall of reality. And I'm going to go to the writer's room at the Disney lot. And I'm gonna go in there and a lot of those people that are actually in that scene, by the way, were actually writers in the show, which I think is really cool. It's one of the cool things they've been doing with this show. And she goes and she goes and talks to the Kevin thing, and I'm like, why do you want the more boring ending? It's like I don't know. It seemed like it didn't quite hit the way I wanted it to. It's like I wanted something that was a Marvel style climax, and it seemed like she didn't want it. So she's like, I'm just gonna like have everybody get arrested at the end and we all go home. And I'm like, that's not very Marvel-y. You know what I mean?
That's where I'm so polarized with this personally, is that on one hand, like, it is a different show and it's a different vibe and it's a different atmosphere, and they lean into that, and they are very, this episode does exactly what it kind of, set the prefaces of. Like, this is not it's one thing we've kind of like critiqued slash complained slash praised about it. That's like, it's a different show, but at the same time, it's not the same Marvel trope that we're used to. It's good and it's bad in its indifference. So I'm right there with you though, where I'm expecting this big climax of something, even if it's just like, even if you didn't have Blonsky, even if you didn't have Bruce, even if you didn't have Titania, even if you just had like the Hulk King and the Intelligentsia ending, but they decided to just like, nope, we're just going to cut our losses here and cut it flat. So it was anticlimactic. That's the thing with this, is that it doesn't have the traditional anyway, or the standard way of how most Marvel stuff wraps its stuff up. It's just like, cool, here, we're done here now.
Yeah, I another thing that bothered me is I don't like the fact that, because Intelligentsia, when we get mentions of them in the show, they seem to be like a bigger run organization, kind of like Anonymous in real life, a bunch of computer savvy people who have ways of finding like, footage of her dancing with her friend in college or whatever, shit like that. Like, they're a better run organization. And you come to find out when you meet up with all these guys at
a Reddit thread.
Retreat, yeah, they're really a bunch of Reddit losers that don't really matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I expected Intelligentsia to be more of a bad guy, but instead it's just a bunch of idiots on the internet. I mean, yeah, idiots on the internet are a thing, but I mean, it's like, you really want them to be the main bad guy of all this thing? It's like,
well, it's slowed down the scale of everything too. Like, obviously, like, and that's one of the things I kind of sort of liked about it, is that like Jen Walters, when she's talking to Kevin, is just like she's literally spelling out the Marvel like formula as far as how Marvel has done stuff. And she's like, yeah, usually this big thing, half these stories don't make any sense. And like, why are we doing this? So on one half, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's kind of clever. That's a little different. I mean, it's Deadpool-ish, but at the same time, it kills your momentum as far as any bigger story you have, because then as soon as she's out of it, it's like, and we're back. Titania's there. Hulk's got a kid, and what's his face is now arrested. Like, it kills any momentum going into a major climax for it. So I applaud it being different, but yeah, it did kind of live. It's like, okay, well, that just happened.
Yeah, it was a final fight scene without a fight.
Yeah.
I appreciate them trying to be different, like you said, trying to do something a bit off kilter. Because let's face it, this is not an Avengers level project that we're doing here.
No,
this was self-contained in and of itself. It didn't need to be cookie cutter shit. And I appreciate when they try to break away from the regular mold and do different things, because Marvel's done that a couple of times with success, but they've also done it a couple of times with failures. So it's like, I don't know what they were thinking, but yeah, I wanted a little bit more action out of it, because like, as good as WandaVision was, the last couple of episodes of WandaVision were pretty much a straight up Marvel project. I mean, it was, the big battle with her and Agatha floating around the skies above Westview,
Dragon Ball fight,
throwing magic at each other. I mean, that was that was a great ending for that show. I wanted at least a couple of buildings to get smashed up. I mean, having her fight around with little mini Hulk at some point, and smashing up Blonsky's whole retreat would have been fun for a minute.
Yeah,
and at least to do that, and for her to say, "Wait a minute, why is it going like this?" and then maybe break the fourth wall and go do the whole thing with Kevin.
Yeah, at least go like a halfway way. But I think the other part of it too is that, and not only this has been something that's been heavily criticized too, is the this is the first like Hulk project we've had in how long? This is, I mean, we haven't had any. I mean, obviously Hulk's been part of the MCU since 2008, but like, we haven't had any other Hulk like characters or that area of Marvel having its own center stage since 2008. So I think it's the other part of it too that kind of goes hand in hand with it. So it's a bit of a like a like the the wind gets let out of the sails in terms of like the ending here. I mean, there's bits and pieces of it that do what most Marvel stuff does, which is leave little trails of breadcrumbs for things in the future. I wasn't surprised by the actual ending with her like everything's back to normal. I'm back working at MKGH or whatever hell it's called and blah blah blah. But I did like the part with Kevin as much as it did kill the momentum of the hype up for it. The idea of her going to Disney Studios and everything, and even when they like the app crashed for a split second, I'm like, oh shit, the thing crashed.
Yeah. John Campea said the same thing. I was watching John Campea today. He said for a minute he like reached for his remote because he thought he had sat on her or something.
I was watching on my phone. I'm like, fuck. So it's bittersweet, but I do not disagree with anything you said. But there are parts of it I did enjoy with like the Kevin robot with the fucking looks like he's wearing a hat, like little shit like that. I chuckled at.
I did notice that little design feature too. I thought was pretty cool. Now let's get to that thing for a minute, because like I said, I really thought for a minute that she was just going to storm into Kevin Feige's office, and in a very meta move that Kevin Feige was just going to be there and have a conversation with her. But instead, what we get is, I'll put the thumbnail back up again here for a minute. Let me get to it. Instead, what we get is we get this machine here called Kevin. Kevin. I was like, this is actually pretty wild. I'm like, now where it went, I wasn't entirely thrilled with, but I'm like, this whole idea of like everything being so formulaic that it's being put together by a computer mastermind called Kevin. I thought that was actually kind of a funny take on the whole thing. What did you think about that?
I couldn't stop smiling, man. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect for the tone they're trying to hit. It's perfect for like the vibe they're looking for. I loved everything about it. I also loved there were little things that Kevin said too that if you catch it made me even laugh even harder. It's like when she was asking questions at the beginning, she said something like, "Oh yeah, blah blah." He goes, "Who told you that? Who said that?" Like little moments like that where he'd be like, "When are the X-Men coming? Can't tell you. I can't tell you that information." Like
no, and you know what? And she looked at the camera. Then she goes, "Oh yeah, when are we gonna get the X-Men?" And she goes, kind of like she's doing this for us, trying to get
yeah. I think the last line that I loved from Kevin or Kevin was, "See you on the big screen." Really? No. Oh yeah, that's right. The Tor Capture in the chat also mentioned that another big part of the thing that I loved about this episode, the intro.
Oh yeah,
the classic 70s Hulk remake, and Jay did a great job remaking it. But the Kevin thing, the little nuances here and there, I loved it.
Yeah, I remember watching that intro and I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for this now. Let's go. Let's go. And because one of the things I've been saying is that this show hasn't really been like the original show with Bill Bixby back in the day. Is they hadn't really focused on, like I said, that show focused more on the Banner character and the Hulk thing. It's just something that happened in the third act and the bad guys dealt with. This show is focused a lot more on the She-Hulk stuff and not, in my opinion, as much as it should on Jen Walters. Now, granted, as I've thought about it over the last several weeks, it's like there really is a duality here that they're trying to deal with that they didn't have to deal with in the original show, and maybe there's a duality that they slowly kind of figured out how to deal with this current incarnation that we have with Mark Ruffalo, and maybe they're trying to find some kind of a balance with that. But in the end, I was like, maybe they kind of did it, maybe they kind of didn't, but. I don't know. I did like the opening. I thought it was really, really fun. It was a shot-for-shot remake. It was even shot with that same grainy texture that I absolutely fucking loved. I loved at the very end when what did it say? What did it say? The Amazing She-Hulk or something like that. What did it say?
Yeah. Something like that. But no, I mean, but to your point about the duality, you're right, because it's a different story too. It's not. Jen kind of like buried the Hulk or her Hulk character, right? She's just, it's a thing, whatever. It's not. And then it started to become more of a prominent part of her life, not as like a shame necessarily, but more like you're living with this now. This is now a part of how you have to integrate in your life. It's not like, it's not a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, which is obviously the comparison of where the Hulk character came from, but it's a different, complicated and what's the word I'm looking for? Conflict. It's a different conflict that she's having with herself and the She-Hulk character. So that's that's a tough pill to swallow. And that's why when I heard that we're gonna do She-Hulk, it's like that's a tough uphill battle. But you can see it, unfortunately, in the show, and that's why I think we've had, like we've been talking about before, we would love to see more of Jen Walters and get more of her story, because there would have been more moments in the show and more episodes in the show where things would have hit heavier because of the build up to that.
Yeah, but ultimately in the end, this episode did not quite finish it the way I wanted. It didn't quite stick the way I wanted.
Yeah, it didn't end the way I was expecting it to. I'll tell you that much. It wasn't a satisfying conclusion, if that's what you're asking for.
Yes.
I will grant you that. Fuck, it was fun. I
Yeah.
don't give a shit. It was fun.
The last couple episodes were a fun ride. I'll give it that. I mean, I really liked episode 8. I thought that was really where the show finally kind of figured out what it was going to be moving forward.
That's still top for me.
But like I said, this episode, they didn't really stick the landing. And sticking the landing is really important in these shows because, A, we don't know if there's going to be a second season for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And B, we don't know what her larger impact on the MCU is going to be. I mean, we've already heard Mark Ruffalo say things like there are plans for her in the film, in the MCU film stuff. Maybe not necessarily a She-Hulk film, but I could see her popping up in the Defenders, the Defenders maybe, or something else. I would imagine we're going to see her probably in Daredevil Reborn when it comes out in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I would imagine we'll probably see her in a couple more of the Disney Plus properties, but for the movie stuff, I mean, it might be a while before there's a logical place to kind of insert her character.
Deadpool 3.
Deadpool could be. I mean, 2 fourth wall breakers. That seems like a good match, right?
Just seems that way to me.
Yeah, it seems that way to me. But I mean, I don't know. They didn't stick the landing in this episode, which really disappoints me because look, as a whole, now let's say that this episode kicks all the ass that I want it to kick, just like episode 8 did.
All right.
Overall, the show was still kind of lackluster. It didn't really find its chutzpah until the last 2 episodes. And you're talking about 2 episodes out of 9 that were really good. I mean, that's not a very good batting average. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I agree.
So I really want to see them, if they do another season, which I wouldn't be against watching if it came out. Yeah. If they do another season, I really want them to think about the creative direction a little harder and maybe map things out a little more carefully. You know what I mean? Because this thing didn't, as a whole, I was overall really disappointed by the thing.
I forgive me if I said this the last time, but I've meant, I can't remember between here and the round table, but I have mentioned this before, where like you can not be fans of certain characters or genres in the MCU. It's fucking huge at this point, and it's fine. You know, like I know you're a big fan of WandaVision. I'm a big fan of Cap, obviously, but you can kind of either appreciate some element of their stories, whether it be smaller on the larger scale, meaning the entire story, or even like aspects of like their character development or whatever, and or what their relation is to the bigger picture. Like you understand the mindset of like, you know, Shang-Chi, we're establishing the 10 rings, we're establishing Shang-Chi. Eternals, we're establishing this. Spider-Man No Way Home, we're telling the story of Peter Parker with his tribulations of finally stepping out. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. The point is that you can take away something roughly from everyone as far as either like a character growth or, you know, whatever. Not with this one.
Yeah.
I was trying to like wrap my head around to like what to take away from this show, and it's not. Everybody acts fantastic. There's nothing wrong with the actors, but the writing and there's no like overall bigger story or purpose other than what sort of wacky, crazy adventures is Jen going to get into this week? That's really what the tone was. And like you said, we both agree. Some episodes have been fun and a fun little ride. But as far as like looking at it as a whole, it's relatively directionless.
Yeah.
So.
And really, what other than the revelation of Hulk having a son in the last like 10 seconds of this episode, what's the most significant thing that this thing has brought to the MCU other than the fact that Jen Walters and She-Hulk just exist? Daredevil is now officially back in the
Daredevil clapped her cheeks. Apparently, that's the big. That's really it. I think the big things as far as bigger MCU, Hulk as a kid, obviously. what I think, well, going back to your pitch about like the second season, I think that much like how I thought Daredevil was going to be and still could be, She-Hulk could be a beacon for heroes or superpowered beings on the West Coast side. Could be the precursor to like West Coast Avengers. You could really, because if you think like geologically, everything's happening over on the East Coast, so now West Coast, it could open up a lot of new avenues as far as characters and whatnot. So it's another I could see it as another beacon to open up the doors for other characters like Mr. Immortal and fucking Frog Guy, like the revolving door of characters. But other than that, as far as like the bigger scope of things, yeah, Hulk's got a son. This could lead into more tie-ins with the Thunderbolts. We could get our World War Hulk or spin-off of World War Hulk. But that's really the big things I could really think of, unless you're itching for some more fourth wall breaking. Those are pretty much the big things you mentioned before.
But yeah, let's talk about that thing with Hulk showing up with his kid. I mean, that was a big reveal.
Jesus.
that was a big thing, because one of the things that everybody's been wanting from the MCU is their variation of World War Hulk or what's the other one, a Planet Hulk or something like that.
Yep.
This is the first indication that one of those things, probably World War Hulk, is going to be coming. Mm-hmm. Because now, exactly where does this kid come from? Well, he was on Sakaar for several years in Hulk form doing the gladiator thing. It's entirely impossible that he met him a hot alien chick that he thought was attractive, and they produced an offspring. I mean, we're going to get that explanation soon enough, I'm sure. When we'll get it, I don't know. I mean, of all the upcoming properties that are coming up, I'm not exactly sure where that logically fits in.
Phase 6.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a long time down the road, though.
I know.
It's a long time for this stuff to stew. I mean, they let the fact that Blonsky was still alive stew for 10 years. It's like, I don't know if I want to wait 10 years to see Scar. Is that his name?
Scar? Yeah, Scar. Yep.
To see Scar rolling out here and becoming a part of the MCU. I mean, maybe they have plans to bring him in sooner. I don't know. I mean, hey, look, we've got Secret Wars, maybe. Possibly.
Well, I mean, the possibilities are still pretty wide open, because as you talked about before in your show today, Marvel's got some time. They got some breathing room now, a little bit of the here and there. In the comics, Scar is has animosity towards Hulk, like a father abandonment issues, because just like Jen Walters actually pointed out in talking to Kevin, the MCU loves their daddy issues. So you could, possibilities are endless there. I mean, if Hulk does have the ability to travel to Sakaar on his own whenever he wants, there's your opening to bring Thor. There's your opening to bring the Eternals. I mean, the door's wide open. So I mean, take your pick. There's a bunch of different ways you could pull this apart. But I think tying into Thunderbolts and or like you said, a World War Hulk movie would definitely make the most sense. So I mean, they could sprinkle it in between. I don't see anything for Phase 5 really, other than Thunderbolts. I don't think they could squeeze this in. I mean, maybe Daredevil, obviously, but I don't think anything else other than something else for like Phase 6 down the road. But yeah, it's hard to figure where the hell they would like wrap this up or touch upon it again or whatnot. Hey, I got weekend visits with my son over at Interstellar.
Yeah, let me jump on this spaceship real quick.
Yeah, I'll be right back for the weekend. It's my turn.
Car. Yeah, he's got a baseball game I want to go to. But we finally get the answer. That's probably why that ship showed up in the first episode anyway, to try to get his attention or to pick him up and take him back to Sakaar to see his son. I mean, we still never got an official answer, not greatly explained, as to why that ship showed up in the first place. Maybe this is it. And we're just supposed to infer that, but I mean, whatever. I mean, good enough for me as far as this is concerned.
Hey, same here.
But also we did get. I like how she also says she's talking to Kevin. She goes, "Oh yeah, I want Daredevil back too." She kind of winks at the camera. She's like, "We won't talk about why."
Woman has needs. Yeah.
Woman has needs. That was kind of fun, and just seeing him drop out of the sky, like, "Hey, how you doing?" I was like,
"That's all set now." Really? Oh, like he's in full costume too. I just like shit like that. I love.
Yeah, I did also kind of like the whole, around the picnic table thing with the family when he was there. I was like, oh, okay. So is this going to be like a real thing that continues? Because I kind of hope so.
I mean, we said this last time, like we're hopeless romantics. Like, yeah, let's keep the Daredevil and She-Hulk romance alive. Long distance work can work,
Well, if you're superheroes, it can, sure.
Right.
But let's see. Tour Capture does ask the question, though. Does Daredevil and She-Hulk have a baby, or are they married in Hell's Kitchen? Comic book-wise, I'm not 100% sure. I think they do. But I would have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
And what would that baby be? Would it be a blind Hulk? I mean, that would be kind of weird. But well, whatever. I mean, hey, that's something we'll get to in like phase 7 or 8.
Have fun with that, Kevin.
Yeah. Good luck, Kevin, figuring that shit out. But yeah, I mean, with the MCU in a weird state of flux right now. We talked about it a little earlier in the live stream with so much stuff getting pushed back. Not Daredevil. Secret War, the second Blade, obviously for obvious reasons, because that movie is just going through production hell right now. Fantastic Four has been pushed. Deadpool 3 has been pushed, which I'm not too mad about because I know they're actually actively filming it right now. Yeah. So we'll just give it. And honestly, I don't think. Let's see, Deadpool was only pushed like 2 months, which I don't think is that big of a deal.
No.
And one of the other ones was only pushed back a few months, which this far out, a project switching dates is not that unheard of. I mean, because as the release calendar kind of fills itself out, you're going to see them looking and saying, oh, well, there's a Star Wars movie coming out. Maybe I don't really want to go up against a Star Wars movie. Maybe we want to give them a couple weeks to kind of do whatever they're going to do at the box office. Then we'll jump in after all their money's been spent.
When I heard that Secret Wars was pushed, I'm like, actually, I thought that was a good thing because up until before the push, obviously they had Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars in the same year, which it's like fucking like.
I think they were coming out within 3 months of each other.
I'm like that is ballsy. So what this gives a chance is that it gives them obviously the chance for the movies to really breathe. I'm not sure how much the writing's been done, if it's even been started on any of them, but like I feel like Kang Dynasty would have suffered because they'd be in a rush to get to Secret Wars. So now if it's a couple of months in between, it's going to give them both a chance to like finally like, okay, now you and I, Frank, can go see the movies like 5 fucking times, writing down notes every single time for these things. So.
No doubt. And then also there's going to be, I think there's going to be 6 months now between those 2 movies, which I think is I don't mind releasing them close together so that you can kind of like keep the momentum train going for like a solid 9 months or a year.
Yeah.
But 3 months is a relatively small window.
Well,
you said, let it breathe another couple of months, give it 6 months between those things.
I think they were trying to take advantage of the fact that Marvel has now shown that not only obviously they fucking can dominate the summer blockbuster hit slot, right? But they've also been showing they can do the same thing with the winter now. And if you notice, like with like Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man No Way Home was the big one where it's like, yeah, we can dominate the box office hits during the winter. That's Black Panther is coming out in November 11th. So I think that's what they were trying to do is like do like, I think Mickey got a little too greedy and they were trying to hit the 2 seasons in 1 year. So I think that them pushing this it's just gonna be better for everybody. And I've heard Ali said that he's like, we're gonna figure this out. He's all on board. He's not like he's bummed that it got pushed, but he's still like committed to doing the whole thing. So, probably for the best. So I'm not too bummed. If it means waiting a little bit more, then that's fine.
Yeah, the important thing is that these, I talked about earlier on our stream. It's the important thing is that quality needs to be the emphasis over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping that they slow down their production schedule after this and concentrate on like 3 to 5 projects a year instead of 27, because it's stretching Kevin Feige a little thin. There's already some stuff going on with Disney's upper management structure that's not helping the creative process already. And look, he can only be in the writer's room of a show for 5 seconds out of every day. There's 30 active projects going on for Marvel right now. They're in some phase of development, some early development where it's a lot more conceptual and maybe he doesn't have to be there all the time. But you've got a lot of things that the writers' rooms are actively working, 10, 12-hour days to get these things written out, to get them done. And he's got to be involved in all that shit to make sure continuity stays where it's supposed to be, to make sure that this sandbox that he's letting all these different directors play in are kind of staying in their lane and not deviating too much from what they want so they can fit in the larger universe with their little movie. So
a lot for a robot.
It's a lot for a robot. It's a lot for a man, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, overall, a decent enough show. Not my favorite MCU Disney.
Oh yeah, no. I still, like I said, I'm biased. Falcon and Winter Soldier and Moon Knight are still high up there for me. But you know, and Miss Marvel and a couple of others. But definitely not the worst. But nowhere near the best. But there were still some gems here and there that still pull from. Definitely more towards the end though.
Yeah. But anyway, any final thoughts on this season of She-Hulk? I mean, start to finish, what did it do anything for you?
Yeah, I will say that it got more comedy out of me than I thought it was going to be very honest with you. I thought it was going to be very safe Marvel type of humor, and I know that sounds like I'm like categorizing it, but that I think you know what I'm talking about, like kind of like the very like bare bones. It did go different directions and did do different things, so I do applaud it for that. It just wasn't my full cup of tea. So there were enjoyable things about it, but my hope is that this is a trial period that they're going to perfect in or do better in a second season. Better, bigger, you know, longer, maybe a little bit bigger stakes, but overall better storytelling for the next time around. So not bad, but yeah, middle of the road.
Yeah. I agree. The first thing I want to make very, very clear is, despite my problems with the creative aspect of the show, I love Tatiana Maslany in the character. Mm-hmm. She was a great Jen Walters. She was a great She-Hulk. I mean, say what you will about some of the CGI stuff for all the fixing they did on the CGI after the first trailer came out and caused all that stir.
Yep.
They didn't really make the CGI look great.
Honestly, the actors themselves, I don't have any complaints about any of them, to be very honest.
Oh, yeah. You. Oh, yeah. I mean, all the stuff with Wong was great. Wong is Wong. We got what's her name? The girl. I'm drawing a blank on her name. Madison.
Oh God. I was hoping they were going to bring her back for the final episode.
I really want more Madison. I really do. Oh, and don't forget the post-credit scene when Wong shows up there and breaks Blonsky out of jail again.
Yeah.
Now, if you had just seen something like Shang-Chi, you would think maybe that's where he takes him out to this fight club. But no, that happened early on in this series. So now where is he taking him? Now, all it says is that he's taking him to Kamar-Taj.
Right.
But there's got to be more after that. So is he going to what's he going to Kamar-Taj for? Is he going to is he gonna learn some of the mystic arts to maybe keep the abomination under control without the help of that little electronic doodad that Bruce designed, or what? What do you think about that?
I mean, listen, Doctor Strange isn't even in the dimension right now, as far as we know. So I mean, they need all the defenses they can get. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him. I'm trying to think the next time we might see Wong, which I mean, take your fucking pick. I could see him being a more permanent resident of Kamar-Taj and like part of the defense. I mean, he's all about studying, what's it called? Like meditation, stuff like that. Can you imagine Abomination having the powers of like Doctor Strange and Sorcerer Supreme and like that, those types of like magic? Holy shit.
Damn, that'd be kind of crazy.
That would be fun.
But, yeah, ultimately, again, actors good, characters good, creativity not so good.
Not focused.
Didn't quite stick the landing. Show was a bit all over the place. Didn't really seem to have a direction.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a running with it. Yeah, it's kind of a running thing in the MCU right now, because we were really hoping that, because with Black Panther coming out, they say Black Panther is the end of Phase 4.
Right.
And I was talking about this earlier with the crew. Mm-hmm. By the time we got to the end of Phase 1, we knew where this shit was going. Mm-hmm. I mean, because we already had some. I mean, comic book fans in the know. We'd already seen like the Tesseract and a couple other things, so we were already thinking, okay, Infinity Stones, Thanos was kind of on people's minds. And then at the end of the Avengers, we see that post-credit scene where Thanos turns around, makes that look at the camera and smiles, so that we know what's happening. Thanos is playing into everything that is happening, and then they spent all that time building it up to the big thing that we got in Infinity War and Endgame, which are fantastic movies.
Yep.
I honestly don't know what the hell we're building up to right now. We haven't had anything like the Infinity Stones, except for maybe like the 10 rings. There's some interesting aspects of that. Other than that, I mean, I don't know what we've got. I mean, is Phase 5 going to explore more about Hulk's son? I mean, is he going to be a bigger part of it? Is there another celestial thing out there? Like maybe Galactus is something I've heard a lot of people talk about, since we're going to be moving into the Fantastic Four stuff eventually, even though that's now has been pushed back almost entire year. But I mean, I'm still not sure where we're at. Yeah, when are we getting X-Men?
So I just quickly searched up the Phase 5 list, right? And what I think is going to happen is we still don't have any Avengers. We have no team. We have no superhero team in existence. There are superheroes and there are super beings, but we do not have any Avengers, right? So we obviously know the Avengers are now, and everything in Infinity War and Endgame is common knowledge, right? So something's going to happen that's going to scare the right people, including who I just heard. I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but apparently they're trying to get Harrison Ford to be Thunderbolt Ross.
I've heard about that. The reason I haven't talked about it on my channel is because right now it's a rumor.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a rumor or not. That's why
and every now and again, some kind of fan casting thing gets picked up by some Twitter follower who happens to have 1 million subscribers.
Yeah,
and it gets enough juice to where like Variety will talk about it because it'll get so much juice. But I don't know if that's true yet or not.
Okay, so putting it off to the side though, something's going to happen that's going to trigger the Thunderbolts. Something's going to happen that's going to create them like, hey, we need to bring these fuckers together because something insane's going on, right? I mean, but I don't know what that thing would be other than maybe like the leader, because Cap 4 is right before it, right? So my guess is that some not obviously not Kang, but someone maybe a little bit like underneath him, like the leader or somebody else like that, is going to cause a public threat. It's like, where are the Avengers where we need them? It's like, who needs Avengers when you have the Thunderbolts? And I think that's going to be like the start of like the catalyst on that side. And then when the Thunderbolts fail, it's like, well, okay, well, now we have more shit going on. There's more threats out there than we realize. We actually need Avengers. And then that's when I think the Kang Dynasty thing will all come together. So, because if you think about it, right, it was, like you said, the first buildup was all leading them to being the Avengers. Cool. Now we're going to focus on developing each individual Avenger's own story now that we know that they're now a team. But they've introduced so many new characters and so many new, facets and worlds that, you think about it, half the original Avengers are either are dead or gone. Tony's gone, Cap's gone. I know Sam's now Cap, Black Widow's gone. So they're trying to like almost cast a net to see like which other characters Marvel is going to hitch its wagon to for like the long haul. At least that's that, behind the scenes, at least that's the way I'm pitching it, or the way I'm looking at it. But yeah, I think Thunderbolts will come together. Shit'll hit the fan, and they'll be like, "Well, this ain't gonna work. We need the actual Avengers." Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, no doubt. But Harrison Ford is 80. I just looked it up. I thought.
Oh my god!
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know what he wants to do. I mean, if he's done now, granted, Thunderbolt Ross is probably not going to be doing the kind of stuff that Indiana Jones would be doing on camera. But he came out at I think it was Comic-Con this summer and said, "I'm done throwing myself around for you guys." Now, granted, he could just be the guy in the suit being Thunderbolt, but you have to remember, Thunderbolt does turn into Red Hulk in several variations of the comic book.
Yep.
Would he be now he would only really have to do the face acting stuff and do the computer stuff with the dots on his face and read dialogue and whatnot. But I mean, at 80, does he do this? I don't know.
I mean, if you need him for a body, like not any major action scenes, but you're right. Like you hit the nail on the head with everything else. Like you don't need him to go crazy. You don't need it. I mean, I know it's kind of funny. Clancy Brown, was the voice actor for him in the animated show, which is good old Mr. Krabs and Biff from Back to the Future. Sam Elliott was Hulk in the Ang Lee 2003, but he's 78, so it's like pick your poison between him and Harrison Ford. But I wouldn't oppose to either of them taking the role. But yeah, Harrison Ford. I mean, unless they're not doing anything crazy with action scenes, awesome. But if you're gonna do more, we need a slightly younger Thunderbolt Ross, please. But that's my guess as far as where they're going to go with it. Like they're the overall MCU is that they're going to kind of cast their net a little bit wider in Phase 5. I think Phase 5 you're also going to see Kang step more into the spotlight. Now he's not going to be the forefront, but he's going to take a giant step forward, just like Thanos did in Phase 2, where like you saw him in like Guardians of the Galaxy, you saw him in more other post-credit scenes, you know what I mean? And then phase 6 is where everyone's gonna suffer.
Yeah, no doubt. But that seems like a pretty good place to start wrapping things up.
Yeah.
Again, not Daredevil. I almost said Daredevil. Sorry, it's the most memorable
Blasphemy.
character in this. Yeah,
Blasphemy.
But yeah, She-Hulk is now run its course. All 9 episodes are now available on Disney Plus. Go check them out if you are so inclined. Again, the show doesn't quite hit the way I wanted it to hit. Didn't quite stick the landing. A lot of good things though that could translate into some pretty interesting storylines farther down the MCU.
Agreed.
And if that's going to be the legacy of this series, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
And maybe once we see her play a bigger role in the MCU down the line, maybe this show will hit a bit differently. Maybe in time we will look back at the show and say, okay, now we kind of look at it differently. We understand it differently.
Yeah.
But for right now, not the probably bottom 5 at least of all the MCU Disney Plus series for me.
Out of 8.
Yeah, out of 8. But well, bottom 3 then. I'll go bottom 3. I don't even know. It seems like there's so many now because it's like every 5 minutes there's a commercial for like, hey, check out this Disney Plus show coming from Marvel.
I know, come on, Jesus, yeah.
By the end of next year, we're gonna have like 27 of these Disney Plus shows coming from Marvel. So
oh God.
But yeah, thank you to my good friend Conor, Mr. Marvel. What do you got going on? I know you're about to go jump on another live stream. What do you got going on?
Yeah, we're gonna be playing some more gaming over my friends over at the Horny Goat. So go give them some love. You want to follow me on the socials at Mr. Marvel 613 is my Twitter handle. I'll be doing some more other Marvel related projects in the near future too. Of course, on the Horny Goat, we also do the Marvel Roundtable where we've been deep diving into everything. And while we're not at She-Hulk yet, we just finished. We just did Spider-Man No Way Home this past Monday. So that was an intriguing little fun ride. So now we're actually like only a few projects away from actually catching up. And then we got some other cool stuff on there too. So make sure you check it out at youtube.com/hornygoat. It's a fun time with fun friends.
It very much is. I still have to catch up on a couple of your last couple of Marvel live streams, but I'm working on that. Sorry about his camera being frozen. I don't really know why, but the bottom line is we heard the Dawson sultry tones of
that's all you
Conor.
needed.
That's the important part. That's all.
Yeah, that's all you needed. Yeah, my power and internet's been all over the place, so apologies for the camera or lack of camera.
Whatever. Bottom line is we got the great thoughts from you about She-Hulk. And as for me, you can find me right there on Twitter, LPadrino13_. I post all kinds of shit on there all the time. Also, you can find me again. There's going to be a little bit of a disruption in broadcast over the course of the next few weeks as we will be moving from one house to the other. We will still be doing a Halloween Ends breakdown sometime next week. So all the stuff you see behind me will probably be gone, be packed up and ready to move. So you'll probably just see blank walls, maybe even just a straight on shot of me jabbering endlessly. I'll try to keep the glow board in the background though. I'll write something cool up there. But yeah, and then we will be back up and running full time for the big Wakanda Forever review. That will probably be November 15th. It'll be a Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to that. There's going to be a couple things up on the channel between now and then. Cora said she might do some reviews to put up. Jeremy said he might try to do a couple.
Nice.
Tech said he might do some Halloween related stuff about the Halloween franchise that he might put up. So there will be some stuff to kind of fill the void until we can get back to a full production schedule sometime in early November. But that's where we stand right now. I know it comes as a weird time because Drew's taking his break from doing his thing, and I'm taking kind of a forced break to deal with all the stuff going on in my life. But the community will be back to full force very, very soon. But in the meantime, you've always got Conor and the great crew over at the Horny Goat. So go check him out as well. Link in the description below to all of his stuff. Thank you very much for coming to hang out with us for this ride. All 9 episodes have now been broken down by Conor and myself. Go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought of this series and what you think might be coming next for Jen Walters and She-Hulk. I want to thank my good friend Conor for coming in and doing this with me. I'm sure we have more Marvel discussions to have moving forward. Yeah. Plenty more Marvel shows coming, plenty more Marvel movies coming. And I think Conor's going to be around to help break a lot of it down with us. Thank you very much, sir, for giving us so much of your time. And we will see you guys later on. Adios.